Hey guys, Daniel James here, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different because today we're going to be taking a look at a sample library that I developed alongside my good friend Aaron Frensley. Together we both own a little company called Hybrid 2, and the sample library we've developed is called Project Alpha. Project Alpha basically is like a cinematic musical sound design toolkit, but I'll get into all that good stuff later. The way we're going to do this video is the same way as we always do, is I've made a short track in the background, and what we'll do is take a listen to that first, and then I'll dissect the track and then talk about how I used alpha in it, in its context, and then I'll go on to show all the fun features of alpha and all that good stuff. So let's take a listen to the track. It's an epic one, so be ready. Here we go. So there's the short track I wrote, and as you could tell, it was one of those kind of like something you hear in modern trailer music. Very kind of sound designy mixed with orchestral. That's what they call hybrid music. Lots of sounds and rhythms and all that. So let's just jump straight in. So let's take a look at what alpha actually is. So alpha, like I mentioned at the beginning, is like it's like a sound design toolkit. Whereas you get like your Spitfires and your Cine samples who do, the orchestral instruments of, they do like organic standard sampling, which is awesome. Sound design libraries like Project Alpha are the kinds of things that you add add in with those to create that hybrid sound. So it's things like impacts and whooshes and bangs and transitions. They're basically like the sounds that glue everything together and give it like a spice, like a layer of taste. Think of it like baking a cake. How you put like the sprinkles and the icing on the cake. That's kind of what a musical sound design library is. So as you can see, the UI looks a bit like this. So the things that stick out obviously are this big TV screen in the middle with a big step sequencer that all pretty and glowing and all that. Up here we have like the effects units. So you've got like your filter, your distortion, your not compression, compacting. I forget what we called that, but it's called comp for a reason. Punch, and then you've got EQ over here. You've got your ADSR, but again, we'll go into all that a little bit later. So let's start at the beginning of the track and see what we got. So I'll just solo out alpha for now. So we're only listening to alpha sounds right now. The first sound we hear, so start from the beginning, it sounds like this. Wait, I need to solo the whole thing. There we go. Okay, so from the beginning. Now, as you could hear, that is almost alpha in a nutshell right there. So we start that sound with that very kind of manipulated, it's like a nice little intro to the track, it's like setting the tone straight away, that kind of creepy, distorted. And that's achieved by a sound that we're calling a whoosh bang. And it's exactly as it sounds. It's a whoosh, and then can you guess? Yep, a bang. So it goes whoosh, bang. So I've just soloed out the whoosh bang, the first one. It sounds like this by itself. Let's have a listen. As you can hear, it's got a nice whoosh and then a nice tail out. And of course, you know, if you're not liking the tail, you can always pull that down. But so yeah, a big part of this library is what did I do there? Is the is what we're calling like the transitional part of the library. So there's lots of sounds that cater to the kind of getting from one part of a track to the next in the most interesting way possible. So yeah, these are what we call whoosh bangs. I've got another one here. If I'll just solo this out. You know, they've got a nice whoosh and then a little sweep and then a crack. So I've got another one here. Have a listen to this. That one's a bit different. It's like a whoosh. Yeah, so they're like the whoosh bang thing. So as you may have noticed, a lot of this track is actually made up of wave files. I'll go into why that is a bit later. So we've got half wave and then we've got half MIDI up here. So let's take a listen to some of the MIDI. I probably should have started with the MIDI. No, I was right. I was right to start with the whoosh bangs because it's the first thing you hear. So let me just solo. So now we're just listening to the MIDI. So the track starts and it's a bit like this. Well, I'll unsolo it. So the track starts like this. So we got that cool kind of driving, you know, that kind of pulse that's driving the track forward. So I'll just solo out the MIDI instruments and we've got this kind of thing going on. So there's a few different sounds going on there. So we'll start with this one at the top, which is basically like an LFO, like a bass sound kind of. It's called the drone LFO pulse. And as you can see, I've automated the cutoff on the filter here. That's why you're getting that big sweeping sound. I'm also automating the volume. By default, most things are assigned to CCs, but if something's assigned to a CC, sorry, not assigned to a CC, or you would rather it's assigned to something else, you just right click it, and as you can see, this is assigned to CC1, which is the mod wheel. So and then you can just come in here, and you know, I could change, for example, the mod wheel. So as you can see the mod wheel now. Let's see if we can get them both up at the same time. Over here. So if you watch the cutoff here, and then watch this pink line here. Looks a bit like a shrimp. And you can hear how that's affecting the sound. You know, it's basically opening it up. So yeah, so this initial sound is basically my pulse for the track. This is what's driving this opening section forward. I mean, I'll just play it again. It's adding like a real like a grit kind of to it. So if I pull it away, it's just more of a da 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 da. But when you've got it there, it's kind of da 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 da, and it kind of, like, as you can see here, it kind of growls out of nothingness to like kind of add like a grit. So cool, that's what I use that little sound for. And then if we move down, the next sound down is basically like a, I don't know what you call it, like a plucky kind of synth sound. Again, lots of modulation, I think, on, not the mod wheel, but on the expression. Oh, well, I say lots. Pyramid automation. Because it looks like pyramids. So let me just take another look at this. Okay, here we go. Gets more interesting over here. As you can see, that's just adding the automation there, which is assigned to CC11, which is the expression. just adding like dynamics to the track. So, and this isn't just a random rhythm going on right here. This is actually doubling the strings, which I believe are Iceni. Let me see what I got on strings. Why not? Strings low from Iceni. Sounds like this. And as you can hear, like I do with many of my other videos, is I like to layer things together to give them a completely new texture. And that's one thing that Alpha's quite good at. Is in fact, that's probably one of his primary focuses, is layering with things. When you get if you want to make something sound like modern, or you know, like more hybrid, even by definition, it's what hybrid is. If you layer, you know, something synthetic or something sound designed or manipulated with something organic, you know, like a string part, you get that kind of hybrid sound. So if I play this section, which is interesting, with the synth above, you'll hear how it's got more of a hybrid sound. I'll take it away as well. And you can see it adds that kind of real kind of almost like an extra little bit of tension above it, because the attack of the strings and the attack of the synth are so very different, you know, that it creates this cool little weird, not weird, but it creates this little like juxtaposition, you know, the very kind of plucky synthetic sound with the very kind of strong ballsy string section. One thing I've got underpinning the whole track is you probably can't hear. If you haven't got good speakers, put some headphones on quick, because we got this patch that's basically just a sub, and this is like a mixing trick that a lot of big composers do. In fact, not even big, a lot of composers do this. Is particularly when you're doing like this modern kind of hybrid sound, is to put a low sub. Just like a sine wave, or like we've done here, like a designed one with extra kind of low end. You know, we use some like some extra plugins and things to throw some extra low end in there. Just solo it out. Just something simple underpinning that rhythm. You know, let me just put it in with the percussion. Just. And whilst it doesn't sound very interesting by itself, you'd be surprised how much just having that sub in there adds to like the overall sound. It's a peculiar thing. It's like maybe it's the way it interacts with the speakers. I'm not sure, but it's when you've got lots of action things going on. If you've got like even if it's quite subtle, just a sub sine wave going on underneath, like I have in this section here. You can hear it's just almost like air coming out the speakers, but you put it in with the with like the piano-y sounds. It just adds like a whole new. It adds like an extra little, like I talk about in some of my other videos. It adds like an extra depth, you know, to the track. Yeah, so that's another little important thing. So then we move into this this little section here, which is like my little breakdown section. I'm doing the MIDI first. I'll go into the waves in a second. So then let's take a listen to this one. So the first one up is, oh yeah, we got this cool little pad called the soft air pad, which is basically like an air instrument, like I was just talking about with the sub. When you're doing these breakdown sections, it's good to have, if you've got the sound of wind, you should try, you know, just for fun, manipulating it a little bit, see what you come up with. Because when you've got these breakdown sections, the sound of air kind of adds like this, I don't know how to describe it. Almost imagine you're like like in the middle of an empty field on an open day and it's warm and there's that gentle breeze and it's like gently like stroking your face. That's kind of what I mean by the air. It's kind of like a tangible thing that you can feel around you. What am I talking about? Anyway, so yeah, so like I've got this soft air pad which is doing my air sound. Put a bit of reverb on it. Now this is like an interesting juxtaposition, like compositionally, because I've got like two different chord progressions going on. I've got one chord progression here, which is being played on the air, and the air is quite non-defined by its by its design. It's designed to be kind of like very background sounding, well, not that high up, but. You know, it's designed to sit in the background. So what I did with this is I actually made a different chord progression to the kind of structure the melodic structure that everything else is following. So if I've on the I think it was like I've got horns or something somewhere, and these are I've got the horn somewhere. Sounded right. Anyway, what the actual harmonic structure is being solidified by the brass, which sounds like this. And as you can see, like not see, but hear that kind of because the air pad is quite in the background and playing something different, it's adding this nice kind of clashing dissonance, which allows for the piano to kind of cut through because the piano's so like solidified within the harmonic structure. I sound like I'm talking like a professor. I'm using big words because I'm tired. It's 10 a.m. I've been up all night. Working on alpha anyway, because the piano's so rigidly like put in the melodic structure, it kind of stands out more over the top of the other pads. So if I play the if you play that over the top of the pads, as you can hear, it's a little bit dissonant, but when you throw in the horns as well, you get this really nice dissonance, which is kind of like I forget the word. Is it an oxymoron? Like the opposite of each other, because you've got the dissonance making it sound sweeter. To me anyway. And yeah, so yeah, we got the piano's all like, it's a nice sounding piano actually. That sounded familiar. Oh, it's like that. What's that? What is that? Anyway, yeah, so like the piano's all playable, if you wanted. It's got a very nice like ambient-y type sound. One thing I actually like about this piano, and of course you could take everything I say with a pinch of salt as I made it, but one thing I actually really like about the piano and what I've been using it for mostly, other than this track, is I actually layer it with other pianos. What have I got loaded up right now? None. So let me just load in piano in blue in before crash. So what I've actually been using it for is layering with other. So by itself it sounds like And then when you layer it with like an organically recorded piano, you know, it's more like you know, it makes it sweeter. If I just quickly play that by itself. And again, I'll just play it with the piano. With the sound design piano. You can hear it adds like an extra a dimension. That's going to be the key word of the day, the buzzword, dimension to it. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, it's got like this lovely sound designy type. Yeah, now we're just by ourselves. So that's just playing this straight up rhythm. I got a little bit distracted there, and then down here. Okay, we're back. Sorry, I had a phone call to take. Where was I? Okay, here we were. So we just listened to pianos. Okay, so now we're on to this section here. So let's take a quick listen to this. Let me just solo this part out. Now, as you can hear, this is like my little step sequencer section. So down in this part here, let me just. I think I actually loaded up a separate instance of Contact for this one, for piano. Yeah, I loaded up a separate instance of the actual of Contact for this particular. Here we go. So yeah, so now we're actually moving into step sequencer territory. So this little section here, as you heard, is like just me basically filling out the space of that airy kind of atmosphere with a nice little dynamic. What would you say? Like a dynamic kind of. I'm not sure what you would call this instrument, like a dynamic little arp sound. Very soft, you know. And this patch is called is Digital Dream. As you can hear, it's very kind of. Which is a cool sound. And again, I think I'm modulating both the expression and cutoff at the same time. Which is a cool little trick, because you can actually you can create some weird textures just by doing that. Because when you when you hear sounds naturally, the louder they get, the less the more high end energy gets put into them. So like, say for example, you're hitting a tom on a drum kit. If you hit it soft, it's going to be quite a muffled sound. It's going to be quite a low. There's not going to be much high end. But if you get like a stick and you really hit it hard, there's a lot more high end energy there, because the air's being moved a lot faster, a lot more aggressively. So if you imagine a filter cut off like that, the louder it gets, the more you would expect the filter to open, like what happens at the start. If you're watching both moving in tandem. But then the volume keeps going up and the cutoff starts coming down. Which is unnatural to your ear, because I mean, it's subtle things like this which is what makes sound design so uniquely creative. So if you've got when the volume's going up, you're expecting the high end energy to be coming along with it, hence you're expecting more high frequencies as it gets louder. But if you get them both going up, almost like luring you into a false sense of security, and then you kind of pull the cutoff down, you're reducing the high end energy, but the volume's still going up. So it's almost unnatural because you're hearing the opposite of what you're expecting to hear. I mean, it's like when you do a chord progression. Like a lot of music is like playing with people's expectations, because you know how certain chord progressions are going to go, and then like you do that like that 4 chord and you're expecting it to go back to 1, but then instead you go to 6. You're playing with the expectations there, and the same can be applied to sound design. If you if you mess around with people's what they expect to hear and then what you actually deliver, it's like how you could do a whoosh bang like I showed earlier, and where you would expect the bang, instead you go very quiet at that point. It's just interesting little sounds. Anyway, I don't actually do it for that much now that I've gone on and banged on about it, but and as you can see, here's something quite interesting. So if I look at the actual MIDI of this part, it's a cool little feature. I'll get more into it a bit later, but as you can see, it's just a four note chord. Now if we come back onto the contact instance here and take a look at the actual step sequencer, as you can see, there's a bunch of numbers that go underneath the step sequencer, and each one of these numbers applies to a number in the chord you're holding, which I know is a bit of a mouthful to try and understand. Do you understand mouthfuls? Anyway, so like let's say if you look down at the keyboard at the bottom, you can see I'm holding a D minor chord. Just turn this up, and now if you look, so when the setting on the step sequencer is up, the lowest note on the chord you're holding will be 1, and the highest will be the highest number. So if I'm holding 3, the highest will be number 3. So if I'm holding a D minor, D is going to be 1, F is going to be 2, and A is going to be 3. Whereas if it's down, A is 1, F is 2, and D is 3. So anyway, now that's out of the way. So now these numbers make a little bit more sense. So on step 1, it plays number 3, which is my A. On step 2, it plays number 2, which is my F, and then 1s. And as you can probably imagine, those of you who know how synths work, this is quite a powerful feature to have like in front of you, because it allows you to make your own little ostinatos. As you can see, there's a number 4 here, which means if there's no number 4 being held, it's just going to play nothing. However, if I put number 4 in there, you can create these cool little ostinatos without having to fiddle about and program them in note by note, which would sound like something like that. So I can focus on what chord progression, for example, I'm going to play. So you can just move around the chords and think about that, because you know that your pattern's going to be designed like this. And as you can see, these bars here correspond to velocity, so you can put accents on things. Really fun for creating things. And again, I'll explain this later, I'll show examples, but this number to the side here, this is basically how many steps within the step sequencer it's going to play. So 16, it's going to play all 16. If you put it to 2, it's just going to play the first 2 steps. So it's just going 3 2 3 2 3 2. If I put it on this, it's playing 3 2 1 3 2 1. Put it on 4, it's going 3 2 1 2. So if you're changing time signatures a lot, if you want to go for a bar of, say I put this on 8th notes, for example. By the way, to change these, you just click that. Anyway, so click and drag up and down. 8th note. So if I was doing like 4 4, so I've got like 8 8/8. But then I go to 5 4. I can just up this to 10. And then I'm now in a bar. I'm now in 5 4. Oh, it needs 4. And the cool thing about this is actually automatable. So you can right click it and learn MIDI CC. And now I can actually move a fader and move that on the fly, which, you know, you can create some interesting things this way, but it also makes it easier for when you're changing time signature. You know, you can assign it to a fader, any fader you like. And then when you get to that point, you can just automate it to jump between, you know, so 5, and then let's say I want it to go back up to 16th. It can just do a jump and boom, you're on 16th. But then you can also do it live, create some weird textures. So let's say I'm just holding down, let's say I'm holding down like this. Oh, let's say I'm holding down this. And now I move it around. You know, you can create some really chaotic, unpredictable kind of sounds. So anyway, so I digressed again. I digress so quickly. Right, so let's just get this out of the way. So then we've got this little section here. I'll put the two together. Just a little. And what I wanted to show here is actually is how you can use the step sequencer to create rhythmic passages. So in the library, in fact, I haven't shown you the library. We'll talk about it more in detail later. But you know, the synth has got loads of these little bass patches. So what you can do with these is the ones that are in the synth, you know, they're all great to run through the step sequencer. So with the step sequencer, you can actually create your rhythmic passages here instead of, you know, again, programming them in. And, you know, if I want that on the or low. And the cool thing about that is you can, you know, set up your rhythm. Say I wanted this to double at the end. Or and then if I push play, that rhythm will be in that section. And as you can hear, you know, you can change it on the fly while it's moving, audition things out. So that's a cool little feature that I really enjoy playing with. I'll talk about the step sequencer and stuff a bit later when I'm actually talking about how you design your own little patches and stuff. So, wow, we must be quite far into it by now. Mind you, I did have a little break in the middle there when I had my phone call. Anyway, so now we're moving on to the wave. So, Project Alpha is primarily a Contact 5.1 based instrument. The reason we went with Contact 5 is because we wanted to use some of the new features, which are things like Time Machine Pro, which is a really cool time stretch algorithm, which, if you don't know what that means, it's a load of nonsense. It basically means that we can play things at different tempos than what they're recorded and they sound more natural. Anyway, but things like Punch, which is a transient designer, which I'll talk about later, and you know, there's some programming tweaks and stuff which make it a lot more usable for us to make usable for other people. So anyway, so what we decided to do is, because we know a lot of people are on Contact 4.1, 0.2 or whatever it is, we decided that we would leave the file structure open wave format. And what that basically means is that a lot of companies will they don't want you to use their raw wave files for whatever reason, be it you know, they don't want you stealing them or manipulating them or whatever. What we've done is we've actually left it open. So if we actually look at the file format here, so you come into, when you've downloaded Project Alpha or whatever, you'll get a folder like this. You just come into samples, and then as you can see, they're all just open wave format. So you can, you know, you can audition them here. No. Or you can, you know, listen to some whoosh bangs. But the cool thing is you can just pull them up from here. So we've got drums 9 up here, so drums and then drums 9. I can just pull that in, and that's it. It's in my project. If you use Ableton Live, it jumps into tempo a lot quicker because it automatically puts it into time. But if there's anything rhythmic, we have put we've put the time signature in the title so that when you're dragging it in, it makes sense. A lot of the rhythms we actually chose to go for 90 beats per minute because it's the good. If we recorded these rhythms at every tempo under the sun, the library would be needlessly large. Whereas for things like percussion, when you're speeding them up or slowing them down, there isn't really that much impact on the actual sound. So as you can see here, like 90 beats per minute's written on the end. And then if you've got things like drones, we've put what actual note the source note is. So this is a G flat or an F. This is a C. Doesn't sound like a C, it just sounds horrible. But then when things are a little bit untonal, we didn't bother because, or if the tonality shifts too much, we didn't bother putting it in there. So open wave format, we've got some multi-sampled things which we'll take a look at a bit later. We've got some, all these transitions and things. So all these can be dragged into, plenty of rhythms. You can drag these into the project, and it's as easy as that. They're in the track. So let me just show some examples of the ones we used. So the first one we used up here, just solo off the alpha again. So the first one you can clearly hear is this drum beat here. The cool thing about these drum beats, by the way, is all the drum sounds that we use to make these drum loops are in the folder. You can, there we go, kicks and snares and stuff. So you can actually recreate these and twist them about, resample them, do whatever you like. But so. Now, you see, personally myself, I actually use waves more than I use MIDI for things like this. So for those of you who are worried about you don't have Contact 5, you won't be able to use it. As you can see, I've used way more of the wave file than I did of the MIDI. So, there's still plenty of content to be had while you wait to upgrade to Contact 5. But anyway, enough of the salesman pitch. Let's move on to, I personally do actually like using waves, and I'll show you why. Is because when I pull in, let's say I've got a drum beat here. As you can see, I've done nothing to it. So this is just the straight up drum beat you get. It's so much easier to, say I wanted, okay, I like that, but I want more of a delay kind of thing. I can just pull in, a third party delay. Pitch it down. Put a flanger on it. Maybe an auto filter. And I've completely changed the sound, and that's one of the powers of using audio instead of MIDI, is that you have a lot more flexibility when it comes to third-party plugins. Because when you're using MIDI, you can't, well, in most DAWs, you can't directly apply an audio effect like a third party, like T-Rax or whatever, the Medler. You can't apply a third party plugin to a MIDI track unless you've routed it, each MIDI track to its own audio bus. I think some DAWs, I haven't used them all, but I'm pretty sure that there's one or two that allow you to apply audio effects to MIDI tracks. But usually, particularly in my case in Ableton Live, you can't do that. So I actually prefer to work with audio, because it's a completely different mindset. Because when you've got audio in front of you, you're thinking more, you're using your more like sound designer creative mode, because the sound is baked in, and then what are you going to do to this baked sound to make it original? Whereas with like a piano, a piano will always sound like a piano, so you change the notes. You don't change the sound of the piano to make it original. Whereas with sound, anyway, I've gone off on one again. I blame, anyway, I keep saying anyway as well. So drums, yeah, so the first one's just these drums. You can get the kicks and snares are in the folder. So we've got like this cool little pattern going on, and then I bring in another rhythm, which is one of the highs, which is the high glitch rhythm. Then here I bring in some 16th acts. Now you see, if I take these out of the track, so I'll play the track once up to, I'll play it here, and then if you listen to the percussion, then I'll take out the loops. Now I'll take out the loops. And this loop. Here we go. Put them back in. Hopefully the eagle-eared among you would have noticed that there's a lot more of a kind of shuffle, a lot more like rhythmic interest. Your ears kind of catching onto all these little bits of sound that are floating around, which add to this really strong like percussive kind of how would you say, like a percussive kind of texture. That's the word I was going for. All in all, they add to this texture, and as you can see here, I brought in another one, which is an electric bass. I think being brushed. Now you see that doesn't sound like much by itself, but in the context with the other layers. If I take it out. And again, if I wanted, I could always put a I could change that up, but I was quite happy with that kind of dry sound. It added a nice little shuffle to the part. So moving down, here in the midsection, horns. In the midsection here, we've got this little flange sound. As you can see, the dynamics just flowing in and out, and I'm doing that just by automating the track volume. So as you can hear, nice little flowing kind of sound. But let's go back a bit. So then we've got let's play this section here. We're listening for these sounds now, the brasters. Now these are like the part of the library we call the brams. They've never really been coined as a proper term, but these are like the sounds in trailers, those big hits or those big ident sounds, Inception is the first one that comes to mind. So this is more of like the more subdued ones. And what I've done here is just automated the intro of it. The intro, I mean, I've put a little bit of a fade in, well, I was meant to. But yes, so this sounds like this. Solo it out. As you can hear, it gets really aggressive in the middle, so I've layered that. I've made it so that hits around the 1 beat, which is here. And I'll put it with something else so you can hear how that affects it. It puts a nice accent on one. But yeah, these big ident sounds, I've got some more over here. These are the B flat ones. As you can see, I've pitched them up by 5, to fit in with the the key. you know, like a really kind of aggressive sound. You layer the two together like I've done here. It's an awesome sound. Moving down. So these are swipes. Swipe falls into that kind of transitional category that I was talking about earlier, where you're getting from one part to the next. Swipes fall into that category, but they're a very niche kind of specific thing. So what I personally use swipes for is when I have a downbeat, like a big one, big number one. I have a swipe that lands just before it. So if I look at the transient here, you see this is another reason that WAV files are good, is you can zoom into the transient and layer it perfectly with a beat. Doing it with MIDI just takes forever. So as you can see, like here's my big one. By adding a swipe just before any one beat, this applies, you know, this doesn't even just apply to Project Alpha. I'm not going to tell you that this is the only thing in the world that does this, but if you have a big one beat, if you put a swipe just before a big one beat, it will make that one beat sound more powerful. I'm not sure why, but if you have a bang, sounds great. If you have a shbang, it sounds huge. I don't know why. So there's the big boom. Put a swoosh behind it. Did you hear the difference? Let's play it again. Without. Hopefully you can hear that difference. It just adds it's like everything needs context to, you know, to sound it at its best. You know, like you could play, if you were to just randomly start playing a bouzouki in the middle of nowhere, you know, it might not make sense. But if you've got the rest of a band that would surround a bouzouki, setting it up, or, you know, you're playing in a type of music where a bouzouki makes sense, all of a sudden you're not wowed by the fact you're listening to a random naked bouzouki man in the middle of town. You know what I mean? If there's context for something, it's more impressive, or it even makes sense. So when you want a big accent, a big one beat, you don't want to just hit that one beat hard. You want to let the audience know that this is an important beat, because now any beat that lands after this where there is no swipe will sound less important than the one that had a swipe. So let's listen to that in action. Did you hear how this beat sounded more important than this beat? Let's listen to that again. Well, this beat. I'll put it a bit before. So what we're listening for here is that this beat here, I mean, it will sound bigger because it's got everything else surrounding it. But in this example, this beat here should at least sound less important than this beat. Hopefully you don't think I'm talking out my arse there. I think that makes sense. But yeah, if you accent that one beat, if you accent that downbeat with a swipe, you know, you're gonna have fun times. Fun what? Yeah, it just really adds to the sound. So moving down. Now we're moving into the risers. Again, risers are part of the transitional part. There's like three main parts to modern sound design type libraries. You get like the transitional things. So they're things like whoosh bang, swipes, reverse sound effects, swipes, risers, downers. They're transitional things. They get you from one part to the next part in the most interesting way. Then you have things that are like accents. So like impacts and booms, you know, or rhythms. I guess I should throw rhythms into like the accent thing, you know. So rhythms, impacts, booms, things like that. And then you get the tonal things, so like synths and pads and things. These are like three main kind of categories of sound design. And so risers definitely falls into transition. And we've got plenty of these. Again, the risers are a good thing to use in WAV because you can tell where this ends. You know what I mean? There's a very clear ending to this. So it's much quicker for I mean, if there's any composers out there who've never used audio before in their composition, they've only used MIDI, I recommend trying it if you're wanting to like throw in some sound designy type things, because you'll notice you're much faster at finding where this rise is supposed to hit, or like this whoosh bang's supposed to hit. In fact, this one looks like it's off a little bit. Looks like it should probably be about there. You'll find those hit points much quicker in audio because you can see transients, whereas in MIDI you can spend like 5 minutes trying to sync it up perfect. Anyway, so the rises in context sound like this. There was a stutter at the end. I'll show you how I did that in a second. That's an audio trick, not actually in the library. So the rise by itself sounds like this. As you can hear, quite sound designy. Builds. You know, rises are all about that really powerful. They're building up the energy so that you can drop it down powerfully. In fact, I'll show that in context with what we call a downer. A downer is basically a sound that goes up. No, I'm joking. It's a sound that goes down. So it starts at a high pitch and it goes doom. And we've got like a few of these like really interesting ones, you know, ones that go from really high, like ooh. I could probably show you instead of trying to mouth it, but so like downers, we've got ones that come from quite high up, like so. This is an 8-bar downer. I probably should have picked a shorter one, 2-bar downer. You know, so it starts high, comes down low, and then like we've got some designed kind of ones, you know, ones with a bit of like distortion or. So they're just sounds. Downers are good in two situations. They not two situations. They're good. Like some of their most common uses is like you'll have this track and then it'll build right up and then there'll be nothing. Like they'll cut all the sound out completely except for a downer. So I'll try and demonstrate this by using the solo button, which may or may not work. So like this. And then it would all hit again. That's a really poor example, but yeah. So I'll show you the riser into the downer. That's what I was going to do. So as you can hear, downers are good for you can layer a downer over a transition, so that it kind of and then leads into the next thing. Or you can have a downer on a 1, like I just mentioned, where it's in a gap, or like I've done here on the 1 beat, so that it kind of makes the next section feel like you're falling into the next section. That was a bit of a ramble, but so riser into downer, which is a nice little transition, I think. Add that in with a whoosh bang. You see how they all layer quite well together. I think I've done a similar thing here. I'll get to that in a second. I'm ahead myself. So yeah, that's what I've got another riser over here. Which is a cool sound. And like I showed, the downers sound like this. I showed you that one a second ago. We've done the whoosh bangs. Oh, I wanted to show you the audio effect. People were asking me this about my demo. How did I do that stutter? Really simple. I've got a utility. You can get any kind of gain plugin. Doesn't really matter. And then what you do is you assign a MIDI, or you automate the gain. So if I come to this utility gain, you can see my utility. I've literally just turned the volume down in steps. Nice and simple. This is how you do a stutter. And you can see I just set the bar to like 16ths, or not 16ths, it probably would have been 32s. And then I put on my good old pencil tool. And then boom. As you can see, the step gets thicker, 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 comes down, and then it gets thinner, thinner, thinner. That's how you do stutter without spending lots of money on a stutter effect, for those who asked. Anyway, so moving on. We're probably like 9 hours long now, this video. Anyway, moving on. Down here we've got another transitional thing. This is a reverse tail. And again, you can see very clearly how I'm layering to create bigger sounds. So if let's for example just take a look at this one beat here. Let's look at how many things kick in at this point. So this 16th hat starts here. We've got electric bass playing here. We've got this brass, which if you remember has got that really strong accent around where this one beat. And then we haven't got a swipe. Maybe I don't know why not. Let's put a swipe there. Why not? Why not? We're doing it live. Put one of those there. And then we've also got this. This is another whoosh band called the Short Snap, which I think I showed at the beginning. It's been so long ago I can't remember. And then we've also layered in a reverse tail. So we've got reverse sound effects, some with tails and some without. The ones with tails are basically like reverb, so they naturally kind of decrescendo out. So they sound like this. And you can hear how these are transitional sounds. You know, they get you from one section to the next in the most interesting way. We've also got some of these that reverse sound effects with no tail. You know, so like ones that just end. So you can put your own reverb on. They're designed so you can put your own reverb on. But if you want to just drag something, throw it in, you know, transition. So layering, very important here. So we've done the flange hits. We've got some more tuned downers here at the beginning. I use these ones for effect. Like I was talking about how you can put a downer on a downbeat. So as you can hear, the rhythm goes dun dun dun, and then there's a gap. And I fill the gap with a downer, which sounds like this. Nice and simple, but you put it in context, sounds brilliant. Subtlety. You can actually hear how when this downer starts to decrescendo out, that long forgotten pad up the top that I was talking about, pulse bass, that starts fading in. Try and listen out for that, how it fades in when this fades out. I actually need to have it so you hear the note. Play the two together so you can actually hear it. It's a cool little way of they kind of merge together, which was actually an unintended happy accident. But you know, you can't go against happy accidents. So I think that is all the alpha I used in this track. There's quite a lot to go over, but now we'll actually go into what the library actually is at however far in we are right now. So let me load up this one here. So yeah, as you can hear, sorry, let me just say about the track. So the important parts to take away that as you can hear, this track kind of works by itself as just alpha. As you can hear, the music part of it in this track, I mean, this isn't every example, but in this track particularly, like the music part of it, like the notes and, you know, the tonality is being carried by the orchestra. But if you listen to how much sound is actually being filled out by the sound design. In contrast, let me take away alpha while the track's playing so you can hear how much of the sound is actually sound design, and how when I take this away it should sound less, for lack of a better term, modern, because it will sound less sound designy. So I hope you could hear that at least, particularly the transitions. If I listen to a strong transition point, let's try this one, for example. This Just listen to that transition. So from one bar to the next. Now without alpha. You hear how that beat loses its impact. That entire transition just sounds like it happens. It's not announced in any way. Now if I put it back in, you know that was an important beat. Anyway, so yeah, the alpha its main purpose is to be layered with other things. You know, it sounds at its best, particularly the piano, like I showed earlier. They sound at their best when they're layered in. They're part of the mix. Like I say, it's if you want to make your tracks sound like a modern kind of sound designy, like those, you know, the big trailers, or, you know, like those modern films like Total Recall or something. You know, you need like a sound design sample library, or, you know, make your own sound designs. And we'll actually go into some of that now. So I talked briefly about the step sequencer earlier. Let me load in I need to stop clicking away. So here we go. So quick. So here we've actually got the sound. So let me actually go through the file structure. So what is alpha? I'll put a little time thing for those who've made it this far, so we can break the video almost up into two. This will be the part where I actually talk about what's in alpha. So we've got the Brams, which are the big loud sound. Downers, which I showed are the down ones. The drones, which are like sustained sounds which set a mood. Drum sounds, which are both loops and a few little sound designed ones. Impacts, which are the they're impacts. What do you want me to say? Melodic instruments. These are instruments that are tonal, so you can play across the keyboard. Multi-sampled, melodic and percussive. So these are ones we recorded more than one hit of, you know, because we can. Reverse effects are sounds that play like backwards. You'll know the sound when I show you. Rhythms are rhythms. So we've got some brush sounds. So these are things played with the brush. Cello design. These are celloed type sounds. Tonal. These are sounds which come in these menus. So as you can see, some say menu. If something says menu next to it in the rhythms, it basically means that like it's got tonal things. And so instead of try and have every patch be tonal in at the same time, you can come into one of these tonal patches, and we've broken it all out. So there's 3 loops per patch in this little part here. So that way you can play it in, you know, different keys, and it's also easier to affect in that way. And then we've got some risers, which are risers, and then this cool little folder which didn't actually exist till a few months ago. Once we got the UI and we realized what we could do with it, we realized that we can actually create sounds just using the UI. So we created some arps, some bass, and some pads, and I'm going to show you now particularly how you can create your own sounds just by using the interface. So let me load up an ARP. So in this track I used this one, Armed Spikes, which sounds like this. You know, you heard it at the beginning. But I'm going to show you how easy it is to like turn a patch in alpha into something, you know, of your own, because that's something that happens a lot with sample libraries. Is you end up with which is almost like, it's called like patch fatigue. It's patches that you hear everywhere. And you know, one good thing about this interface, you know, that we personally think is good about this interface, I'll just close this so that we can just focus on this one, is the UI gives you enough flexibility here to customize the sound to the point where it doesn't just sound like everybody else's. You know, you can create your own. So let's just start with the simple thing. So let's change the step sequence. So we've got that. So let's just change all these to number 1. Let's just have all down here. As you can hear, nothing, because every step's down. So let's just have like a triplet pattern, which is like, so duh, 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 duh. You have to imagine these as like individual beats. So now if I hold a note, we turn off the delay. So by the way, I'll just say this now, that these reverb and delay are sends. So in fact, let me get to that in a second. So so you set your things like this, So this is how you set the step sequences. So you click on the thing, move it up and down, creates a step. So at the minute I've done like this triplet pattern. And as you can see, I've changed every pitch to 1. So even if I play a chord, if you look down the bottom, it's just going to play that first note, and on up, the lowest note is first. So if I can change the top ones, nothing will happen. But if I change the lowest note, that becomes number 1. So now let's fill it out. So we've got the dirt, 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 dirt. So let's add like some little ghost notes. Just going to add some more volume to this. This is like normally this patch wouldn't have it, but here we go. So now we've got like some little ghost notes. Add those in. So now we've got a little. So now we've got a cool little thing. So I should probably mention now. So if you haven't figured this out yet, if you want to use an effect, you turn it on and off with the little LED. If you want to change its parameters, you just click on its little thingamajig, on its name. Same with the step sequencer and the gate, but we'll get to the gate in a second. You just click on those and it changes the parameters around. You can see what parameter you're changing up in the top middle here. So filter cutoff, envelope amount. So anyway, back to what I was doing. So I've got my cool little pan here. Sounds cool. But let's put some delay on it now. So I'm just going to pull up the delay send. And as you can hear, not much going on because the rate is down at 1/16. So if we bring this up so it's playing triplets, so 3/16 is like a triplet. As you can hear, like a nice reverb, delay type sound. If I take these down so that it's just like, in fact, let me have it. Let's do this instead. So now you can see the delay is actually carrying most of the rhythm. Let's add a little bit of space to it by pulling up the reverb. But what I'm actually going to do here is increase the length of the reverb and add, I'll have the low pass round about here. If it clicks, it just means it's changing the convolution. So now we've got like this dark kind of, it's actually being controlled a lot by the filter. So I'll show you how we get that sound. So the filter cutoff, if you want filter, you just click that. So first is low pass, mid pass, high pass. So if I change the cutoff, and as you can hear, there's like a kind of pulsy sound. I'll show you how you get that. You see, this is like synth 101. So if I click this button here, it'll take me over to the ADSR. So ADSR stands for attack, decay, sustain, release. How long it takes for the note to start, then how long it takes to get from the start to the sustain. And the sustain is half, so it'll go all the way up to the volume, and then it'll take 567.7 milliseconds to get from full volume to -16. So the volume will go down. It's so short you don't notice though. Right, so we have this thing called a filter envelope. So when an envelope, pay attention by the way if you want to create art passages and you're into synths. So if your cutoff's low and you've got a filter envelope amount, what it's going to do is it's going to take this ADSR, the filter, as you can see, which is here. So this envelope filter is attached to this. So I can actually adjust that sound by moving. So as you can see, the sustain goes all the way down. So the sound because the attack is so quick, it's going to go straight to the decay. So it's going to take 250 milliseconds from the filter to be all the way up to be all the way down, because you see the sustain is at 0. So that means that this envelope amount is telling this filter, I know this is a bit of a clusterfuck, but stay with me. This envelope is telling this filter to go back down to its 0 point after 250 milliseconds. I mean, if I turn that up, you start hearing that kind of click. If I turn this up, you'll hear it very clearly. That's why you have envelope amount, because you can layer it in, so that click can now just become a subtle thing if I wanted it to be. But I'll put it up there. We'll pull it down, but you can adjust the sound of that click by saying, okay, maybe I want that click to be a bit longer. Or a bit shorter. And now let's say we want this note here to be a second, so we can now go, or now we can start adding things like effects, like grit. Or we can crush it up like this. And of course we can make this a pattern, so let's say like a 3-1-2-1. You know what a 3-1-2-1 sounds like, you just don't know it. And then 3-1-2-1. 3-1-2-1 sounds like this. Or so many effects on now. Turn these up. That's why it sounds like chaos. You may have heard it in certain famous. And of course we can take this sound. Keep in mind we haven't changed patch yet. We're only using the UI. So let's say, for example, we decide we don't want a step sequence, so we can turn that off. We've now just got this sound. So what we can do is we can tell it that we want the sustain all the way up. So when you push the key, it's always the same volume, maybe a little bit less. And then let's take the filter and assign it to the mod wheel. It's now velocity sensitive. I can now, so I'll bring up my attack, so how long it takes the note to attack. And I'll turn up my delay a little bit and my reverb, make it a bit more spacey. Add the reverb, so release. Release is basically how long it takes the note to die after you let go. So if I let go now, it takes a while to go. So as you can hear now, we've got like a nice, almost synthy like pad. We'll put the filter on. And again, if I want the volume, I can just turn it up over here. In fact, I want more of like a sustain to come all the way down, but I want it to happen slowly. things like the gate on it. So let's talk about gate control. So gate is basically, I didn't mention in the step sequencer again, this is how many steps you play. I talked about it earlier. So gate works on the same steps, so this plays till 16. When you turn the gate on, in fact I should probably put this on 16th. As you can hear that sound now, all those reverbs, all those delays. If I put the reverb really high up, you can hear how it's... Now keep in mind again, we haven't left the UI, which is like if we've got like this sound now, and let me just load in what it was before. It was arm spikes. Really replace, sure. You hear how far we've come. So let's just quickly go through the library. So we've got Bram layers. So Bram layers are this is going to be one long ass video. These are like, you know, they're your Bram layers. I should probably say a bit more about them. Bram layers are basically like individual kind of aggressive note sounds that don't have like an impact, you know. Except that one. There's sounds that kind of have that are just the layer, so you can layer them over the top things to give them that feeling. Whereas the Brams themselves, you know, they're the impact. So then we've got things like downers, which are, you know, some that take a while, and then some that go quick, you know. Again, like I mentioned earlier, great for transitions. Then we've got things like the drones, so I'll play you a few of these. You know, drones are particularly good with mod wheel. If you don't want the cutoff assigned to the mod wheel again, right click, learn something else. This is probably drone's probably a good one to show you the gate as well. Here's something to note: if ever you turn on the gate or the step sequencer and it sounds like it's not doing anything, just double check that this isn't on 1, because as you can tell, I've turned the gate on and it's all the way up, so it's just going to stay on as if it's nothing. If I put it to 16, so keep in mind this is just a sustained sound like this. Again, these sounds are good for, like, so say if I wanted to change it up a little bit, you know, make it a bit more unique, I'd probably do something like put the reverb up, extend how long the tail goes, maybe make it a darker sound by pulling the low pass on it down. Little bit of grit, turn this down a little. Oh no, I want that up actually. You see, I know what these do. After a while you learn what all these things do, and then it's almost like a digital distortion sound. But then I can also put a gate on it, like I mentioned. So it instantly becomes a like a rhythmic thing, you know. I can make it 30 seconds. perhaps maybe like some kind of on-off gate, like a trance gate like this, or like a really hard trance gate, which is basically on off on off. You can think of a gate as like a volume control. And something I haven't mentioned yet is you've got full EQ control here, and it's based on the new EQ that they introduced, I believe, in Contact 5. So you can actually control the sound, like the EQ of your sound. Like it's quite a cool EQ. So. Say I just wanted that digital kind of sound and less of the actual drone part, you know, pull out the lows and then boost the highs a little bit. So, you know, I've created almost like a completely unique thing out of just that. And then if I like that, I can go File, Save As, click that, and then just save it into the file structure. It'll save in fine. Then we've got some like more cello-y sound designed ones. You know, some cool sounding. I keep saying cool sounding and all these kinds of things. It's because I can't think of better words to describe them than cool, because they are cool. Here's a cool little tip, by the way. It's if you do little jumps in the mod wheel like this, if you have delay and reverb up quite high, I'll put the delay on something good, like here we go. I'll turn the feedback up. Now if I do like one of these filter jumps, it'll become like a rhythmic tail. Cool little effect. Anyway, so they're the drones. I got a little bit caught up then. So then we in the drum section we have like some, as you can hear, this has got the step sequencer on and it's playing 1 1 1 1 1, which means I only have to hold one key and it will play me back this passage. Plenty of. This is a good example of showing what the punch does, and this is one of the main reasons we moved to Contact 5. And if you haven't seen this used much, it's basically a transient designer. So this is what the sound sounds like by itself. Now what I'll do is I'll turn up the attack and you'll hear the difference. You can hear how it makes the initial attack of the sound a lot stronger. Now if I pull the sustain down, you'll hear how it gets shorter. The sustain is basically after the initial transient, how much of the sound carries on. So if I turn this down, it'll make it short and snappy. Alternatively, if I wanted it to be more like in the background and airy, I can just pull this down. Now you see, this gives me an idea. Sorry, tangent. This is why it's dangerous for me to do reviews on sound design things, because I get ideas. So now I've slowed this down, it hasn't got much attack. Now what happens if I put maybe like loads of reverb on it? Pull it down so it's like this. Here we go. So like this. So it's really spaced out, and it could probably become like some weird kind of March of the Dead. Right. So reverb length will turn the low pass down. I think I'll have a little bit of noise. I mean, listen to this. This is the sound I just made using just the UI. And then if I load in the same patch again. Different. Okay, so anyway, drums. We got like some deep kicks. Whoa, that wasn't a deep kick. So these are things like if you've got like, how many times can I say like? Every time I say the word like, have a drink. Disclaimer, I'm not responsible for any deaths. Anyway, so if you've got a track that's in like the vein of like one of those modern things, you know, these sub kicks come in handy. They're made just, again, I made these in the user interface. You know, you can put a step sequencer on. And as you can see, there's up to 4 notes here. So if I play 4 notes, and then I'll bring the filter up. This actually sounds like, for lack of a better term, Tronish. So all you need to do for that Tron sound is mess with the crush a little bit. I can't hold that many notes. Here we go. Anyway, so we got like deep kicks, we got all these, and we got like the drum loops. Again, I use them as wave format, but they're in here as you know, if you want. These are tempo synced, by the way, so you know you can come in and see how they're tempo synced if you're into that kind of thing. But so these will adjust the tempo. If I bring the tempo down, you know, like to 80. Or maybe 68. Drum loops always sound a little bit different going down than they do up, so same with things like Stylus RMX. And then you can speed right up, you know. So we've got some cool little drum loops, kicks and snares. So like I mentioned, the kicks and snares are in the library if you wanted to make your own. Again, don't think that you just have to go with what it says, you know, you can. If you wanted to, you know, mix it up a bit like that. But we also did, we also made, you know, because we can, we whacked it in the step sequencer as well. So as you can see, I've done like a drum pattern here. So if I hold like a kick as the lowest note, as you can see here, let me pick a sensible time signature. As you can see, it's not playing a snare because we'll go with that one. So if I hold the two together, now the step sequencer will play the beat back. Play 2 kicks. So like. You see, I instantly beefed that up just by using like the EQs and layered a bit of grit in there. I'm going to keep pointing that out to you. I hope you understand this. Oh, my neck. Oh. Right, we got some toms. drum sounds. And then we've got things like impacts. These are what you would expect. So we've got like some sound design like booms. Again, you can sound design them, but I'm going to move on before I change my mind. Like epic cassers. So the idea behind these, the idea behind the epic casser was basically so that you layer it on top of a drum and it adds like an ensemble. Almost sounds like it was hit by an ensemble. You know, you can pull out the low mids, make it sound a little bit more powerful. I noticed that about trailer music, not much low mids. Then we've got things like impacts. Oh no, these are hard tom rolls. These fall into that transitional category. You know, you're setting up the next bar. You throw one of those in. Impact's got loads of these. Exactly what you would expect to hear. Metallic mid hits. So this is 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. This is spread across 5 keys. So if I hold like 4 of the keys, it will play back this rhythm here. But I won't get too far into it. How long is this video? So skip boom. So we've got a section of it, section of the library, which is basically like these dark skips, which I believe an American would call a dumpster. But again, you know, because we can run it through a step sequencer. An instant create your own little rhythms out of it. And then we've got the whoosh bangs. The whoosh bangs sounded better untempo synced. I know that's gonna probably irritate people, but they when you tempo sync the whoosh bangs, they kind of get a little bit screwy, so we left them you know, these things are transitional sounds and they've got a nice strong impact. Nice. I said that like the late night classic FM. Lots of impact. So these are the melodic instruments. There's a lot of ground to cover, so I apologise for the length, but this is actually a cello. Got a few different variations on it, and then I think we've got a clean version. Oh, this is the sequence version. I swear down on my reputation. I'm not saying this as a salesman, but does anybody else notice that when I load a patch up, I start tweaking things? It's like a bad habit. I did the same in Insini as well. Oh, this is like the clean sound. It's almost like picked harp sounding. And again, if that pinches too much, you can just pull it out with the... I'm using a transient designer to make it softer. There we go. Maybe. Then we've got things like the pissed fake low piano. This is good for two things. Good for playing these like low ominous, because it's got a very wide sound. It's good to throw some extra length reverb on it as well. Very dark and ominous. But you know, if you've got like a mystery to solve, you know. You know, for example, it's almost like a honky tonk up high. Moving on. Raw cello randoms. So a lot of the sound design in this library used, I don't know if any of you saw me making it, but it used my cello that I purchased for the purpose of sampling it. And so once I'd finished all the sound design thing, I had this huge bank of just random sounds, and I thought it would be cool if I included these. So they sound like this, you know. Not the most pretty sounds, but you know, if you're doing a horror score, they'll come useful in themselves. But I thought, being as though a lot of people will want to tweak things, you know, you could take something like, I don't know, like something like this, and then you know, again, I'll verb it up, bit of delay. I'm not even going to listen to this until it's done. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. I'm going to turn this up, pull that down, lift this up a tiny bit. I'm going to pitch it down by 12. I'm going to take out some of the low mids, leave the mids in, up the highs, move a little bit of attack, and now we've got now just playing random keys. You see, I've got instant horror score just by doing that, so I thought that'd be fun for some of you guys to play with. Then we got the soft piano. Which is cool for the sad moments, and again for layering, like I mentioned. Snowing Ash, which is, if anybody thinks they know where this was inspired by. Yes, then we've got multi-sampled things. Now, I haven't got to it yet, but at one point I sampled some crunchy string sounds with my brushes, and we actually multi-sampled it as well. In fact, let me play you a loop of the multi-samples. The string I'm about to do, it sounds like this. So that's a loop, that's a live recorded loop that you can drag in, but we also multi-sampled it and it sounds like this. So if you whack on the step sequencer, that loop almost gets recreated. Except this is more flexible, so you know, if I wanted like just a straight up 4 beat, you know. Whoa, didn't mean to do that. Yeah. So this is round robin, so you know you can play. And velocity sensitive, so you can do that. We've got some heater hits. Yeah, we've got some percussives, like my French horn being beaten. That sounded rude. These are cool just for making sounds. I think I actually did with my French horn. So you heard what that French horn just sounded like, and then I turned it into this. And that's all done in the UI. You know, I can turn it all off so you can hear what it actually. You can hear it goes back to what it was. We've got some palm slaps. These are like recorded on the cello. Again, step sequencer. You know, just sounds recorded around the cello. We've got some reverse effects. So these are like the no tail. There's a shitload of stuff to go over. No tail is things that will just end. You know, like the epic transitional moments. Soft transitions. I haven't talked about these. Soft transitions are basically, so we've done like the swipes and the tails and the no tail ones. The soft transitions are when you're changing scene, like in a film or in a TV show, and you need to you just need the sound that carries over. Just a nice sound that fills the gap in between the two. I say nice loosely. Yeah, I'll stop saying just. If anybody was playing the drink every time I like, you can now stop for 10 minutes. The swipes. Like I mentioned, useful just before a hit. Tail is like what it says on the tin. It's a reversed effect with a tail on it, so it doesn't just end. It's cool. Then we've got this whole rhythm section. So these are the menus. So like I said, the menu is basically that's the new one. Every time I see basically, take a drink. Let me know in the comments if you're pissed. And by pissed, I mean drunk. If it says menu after it, that means that that the loops in the menu will have a folder somewhere else. So you can see cello design will be in the cello design, full sounding menu, and low menu and mid menu. They all come under the tonal. So cello design sounds like this. This is just me playing my cello and then sound designing it. Who thought a cello could be so harsh? These are all tempo synced. So that we got those, and we got like some full sounding is basically sounds that are they've got too much sonic content to be low, mid, or high. As you can hear, I kind of went for the disgusting sounding things. High didn't need a menu because it didn't have any tonals, but these are cool if you need like some hi-hatty type sounds. You know, if you need some cool hi-hatty type things. Low menu. And these are all the low, mid, and high. They're basically basically have a drink. They're sound design loops that that we wanted to keep. Okay, so like in the synth part of the library, you can adjust things and tweak them to your liking. With the loop part, it's more sound designs that we've created. So they're baked in. They're like this is what we thought was a cool sound. So this is more like my aesthetic, mine and Aaron's aesthetic type thing. So if you want like our kind of view on rhythms, this is like our snapshot of it. So we got that. So then we got some mid menu. So this is like the hold a few keys at a time. know, you can add these. I mean, like, there's some really cool libraries out there, like Damage, for example, by Heavy RC, which is a fantastic library, layers perfectly with alpha. But they're the types of libraries where you hold like chords and it will play back something epic, you know. So I'm just playing big block chords. Whereas alpha's more like you can play one loop, but you play it underneath a track, you know, like, or you play it underneath a rhythm section or something, and instead of it becoming like another rhythmic element, it adds that feeling, like that spice of like that modern cinematic modern cinematic modern. Did I mention modern? Sound design, the musical sound design thing. You know what I mean? So you could just play that underneath a rhythm. Let me just solo a rhythm like that, this, and then play this. Oh no, where did it go? And then play this over the top. Here we go. 3, 4, 1, 2, and then play it now. This is a cool one. So we've got things like, let me find a cool sound. Anyway, moving on. So we've done the mid-menu stick design. So stick design is cellos that have been played rhythmically. And then these are tonal, so you can move up. So we've got 3 different rhythms there. They got cool little, yeah, they had cool effects. And then we've got some sticks. I think there's 3 loops here as well. Again, tonal, so you can. You know, just played rhythmically, as you do. So that's the and then, like I mentioned, they're broken up. So like brushes, for example. This is a cello played with a brush. Got a couple of those. Crunchy strings is personally my favourite. I think it came out better than I expected. Doesn't sound like much, but in a mix. I do like that sound. And then loose tom is just a loose tom. I'm so tempted to start tweaking it again, but I think you get the idea of the tweak. Cello design, so this is broken out like I mentioned in the menu. This is all the sounds broken out into 3. So you've got that, but you can... So you've got this rhythm, but you can play it lower. As you can hear, the tone changes. Same with the mid ones, so like if I pull in the mid. In fact, let me pull in mid 1 because that's my favourite one. I use mid 1 in everything. As you can see here, I'm playing. The notes change. So that was this. Yeah, I can play it high. Lower. So you get the idea on how that works. So rhythms, risers, pretty self-explanatory. This is where all the risers live. You know, really big ones. that goes on for a while. A cool thing to do with risers is to just get take a whole clump of them, like just play a big chord of them, and because they all finish at different times, so it starts sounding like chaos, and then some of them end up ending around the same time, so it gets even huger. So etc. You know, that could go on for a while. And then we move into my favourite part, which is the synth, which we kind of talked about. We've got arps, basses. You've heard the arps. I've been working on that earlier. The basses is kind of cool. So we've got these things that have got a vel next to them, which basically means velocity sensitive. So the softer you play, you can get some really dynamic things. And then when you play hard, so you can... This is the same patch with the sequencer on. Then we've got things, if it's got LFO next to it, it means it's got a built-in LFO. Cool for those kinds of like big things. Then we got like some... You know, some cool thuddy basses. Remember, all of these are editable. If I didn't like the rhythm that was playing, maybe a tripler one. I mean, that's the thing that ended up working better than expected, was when we had the UI. Oh, the low sub. The UI allowed us to make all these extra like patches that we didn't need to. This one I think is a cool little sound. Subgroove. So you can, you know, you can hear the excitement in my voice. It's just so simple to like. I mean, I get excited about it, like speaking from my own perspective, because you know I know how flexible this is, so I can actually pull in my own sounds. What's one I like? We got the Angel Pad. And a lot of these are built just straight up in Engine. Yes, like I was saying, sorry, about the UI is like the amount. I get excited about the amount of flexibility, because I know that you know, even though we've got like 200 patches in Alpha already, Project Alpha already, you know, I know that when I use it, I can make it sound different than when someone else uses it. And that to me is exciting. And yeah, so you know, I'm pretty sure I covered everything. I'm sorry about this really short video, but yeah, so that is pretty much everything in Project Alpha. As you can tell, I'm not sure how long the video is, but I didn't have enough time to cover every single patch. But there's, like I mentioned earlier, for those who have not yet upgraded to Contact 5, or maybe don't even have Contact, because this doesn't work in the player, so it won't load up in this menu over here. What I did is when I installed the folder, when you buy the library and download it, it'll come in a Project Alpha folder, and then it'll say instruments and stuff. I literally just dragged it from. All you have to do to get this little menu is click the quick button here, like that. Boom. As you can see, I've got loads of others loaded in here. You pull up this, you get your folder. You won't be able to see it. I use 2 screens for this, but I click this, I drag it, and then I drag it all the way, and I just dropped it down here, and now I can access it here. But yeah, for those of you who are worried about Contact, not having Contact 5 yet, maybe you're going to upgrade in the future, maybe you're going to wait for Contact 6, whatever it is. And a lot of people are asking me, like, will I get any value? Well, you see, because of the open wave, most of the content, the only things you won't be able to access is the sounds in the ARP. The UI. You won't get any of the UI features, which I think is personally one of the best things about it. But you won't be able to use the UI or the synth patches. But the positive is if you don't have Contact 5 yet, but you're thinking of upgrading, because it's open WAV, you can still make use of every single sound that's in here. You know, you've got all the drones are in here, the downers are in here, the drums are in here, impacts. You know, there's impacts galore. There's rolls. There's whoosh bangs here. You know, you can make up your own multi samples if you want. You can pull in the multi samples. There's a cool thing to try. You know, pull in some of the multi samples, and then turn them into something completely new. All the reverse effects are in here. You know, all the rhythms are broken out, and they've got their time signature 120, 90 beats per minute. So all those high glitchy sounds and everything, you can still just drag them straight into your project. So you can still make use of the content. And personally speaking, I actually use a lot of the WAV files by themselves. Like I mentioned, I know that I can make this library sound different than when someone else uses it. Because when you've got the WAVs, you know, you can use all your third-party reverbs and your effects, and you could basically use all the things that you've got here, you know, externally. But if you have got Contact 5, you've got the added bonus of being able to use like the step sequencer with all the multi-sampled things. So being able to create rhythms, you know, a lot of people like rhythm. I'm stuttering now because I've been talking forever, but you know, I know there's plenty of composers out there who just don't have the time. You know what I mean? They don't have the time. There are TV composers or whatever. They're on deadlines, and you know how easy it is for them to pull up something like, you know, like pull up the crunchy strings, and you know, they want this sound, but you know, maybe they didn't like the loop and they haven't got time to slice it up. So they could just, the good thing is they could just jump in, and with the step sequencer, they're like, no, I need it to cut off on that beat, and then the 4 needs to be, and then I need like a blah blah bum bum bum, and then a bum bum, and it's done. And you know, your loop's right there ready to go. And if you don't like the sound, you know, and you know, you've got a sound that's ready to just drop straight in. And like I say, what you can, if you've listened to the demos of the library, there is enough content here, particularly with the synth pads and ARPs and things, to create music just using this library. However, its main focus is actually for layering with other things, like I showed in the track here. You know, layering in between big sections of your tracks and things, and it just adds an overall sound of like sound design and, you know, all that modern type tone. And so yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this this video today. It's probably my longest yet, but I've had a lot to cover. I'm sorry I took a phone call in the middle. It was quite important, but so yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this brief, in air quotations, this brief overview of Project Alpha. If you've got any questions, please ask in the comments below. And I really can't wait to see what you guys come up with it. And yeah, for those of you who are worried, don't worry. I'm still going to be continuing to do overview videos. This will probably be the last time on my personal channel I talk about something I'm working on myself. I think the next video I've got is either Storm Choir, which I've got here ready to go, or I think I'm doing one of the Cine samples percussion. But you know, if you want to if you want to see one more than the other, say so in the comments and I'll get to it. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and yeah, let me know what you think. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later.